The combine is over. The agents, the coaches, the GMs have all talked, and some 49ers free agents have started to emerge. Plus, why did one 49ers beat writer just lob a grenade out there to 49ers Twitter? We'll break it all down next. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera alongside Vish Kumar, and we are part of the Pro Football Insiders. Vish, how are you on this day after the Combine Monday?
It's not how I would have described it, but I'm doing quite well, Rob. How are you? It's best season.
I am doing well. I'm excited. We've got things happening. Rumors are percolating because the Combine, like we said, is over. All the coaches and GMs have talked. Look, I'll just lay it out like this, okay? Legal tampering begins a week from today, which means illegal tampering is happening at this very moment. All those deals that get announced on Monday, the day of the legal tampering, those are all being negotiated as we speak, okay? So when you hear about potential interest from one team and one player, there's a lot of truth to that because that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, and I gotta say, there's been some complaints about the combine and its value going down, which I totally agree with. I felt like some of the guys showed out this year. Arvell Reese put on a show working out. Sonny Styles put on a show working out. Jeremiah Love put on a show working out. I thought Ty Simpson really threw the ball great. It doesn't mean anything, but it was good to watch. And I always say this for the it doesn't mean anything crowd. It does mean something when they don't do it. So it is them checking a box. But if they weren't able to do that, they're not a pro. And so at least they checked the initial box that they're a pro. I thought it was cool to watch.
Well, I know some people have said like, oh, this is the fastest combine ever. And it's like, yeah, because the slow guys aren't running anymore. Like if you're slow, you don't run. So it's only the fast dudes that are running. But look, I always favor more information over less information. It's more information for whatever you think it's worth. It's more.
Totally. And I also like to see how like guys' bodies look at certain weights. And this sounds kind of weird to say. It's not like I'm checking them out in any way, but it's like the Reuben Foster situation. I don't know why he was the first example that came into my head, where it's like you're slugging 5 waters before you weigh. So you get 5 pounds of water weight and you can get your weight at 227 because it matters. Like, but you can kind of see that like in how they weigh, like when they're coming to the combine. Like you can see guys who are like super cut who've lost weight, or guys who are like looking a little bit bigger because their size and how much they weigh matters in where they get drafted. All of those things I totally enjoy watching. And I think there's a lot of drama to the draft that starts with those sorts of things. Like there's an intrigue to the way prospects sell themselves that I really enjoy. Like a guy who's super worried about his weight, for example, trying to convince everybody he's heavier than he actually is just to get drafted. I always find that stuff fascinating. And here we are in that season.
And as this comment says, pretty sure Cooper, Sadiq, and Freeling all tested themselves out of the 49er. I mean, Sadiq is, when you challenge the Vernon Davis 40-yard dash time, and you're like, oh my God, like now Vernon was heavier than Sadiq, to be fair to Vernon, which is even more insane that he was that much heavier and was able to run it. But some people were hoping maybe he dropped to the 49ers at 27. Let's see.
Yeah, Sadiq's total freak show. Total freak show. I don't buy people using him to say like the league has somehow gotten more athletic when, to your point, Vernon Davis was 20 pounds heavier, chiseled to the same granite, and doing all the same things in the same freak show way. I think Omar Cooper Jr. was one that was probably always a reach for the Niners. I think he's probably closer to being the best receiver, the second best receiver in the draft, than he's closer to 4th or 5th. So sorry. As much as I wish that one would work out, I don't think that guy's going to be available for the Niners.
Plenty of time to break down the draft. We will, of course, we'll have plenty of that, but free agency begins next week. And as I said, some names and some rumors and some things are starting to emerge. And one of the names that I saw today, I loved, and it came in a column from Jeremy Fowler. And let me see if I can zoom in a little more so you can see it here. The name he mentioned is John Franklin Myers, defensive lineman who could get a lot of interest from a lot of teams. And he says the 49ers are a sneaky contender for some of the good free agents along the defensive line and at wide receiver. They want a disruptive interior rusher to pair with Nick Bosa, for example. John Franklin Myers is the top option there. At wideout, Green Bay's Romeo Doubs is considered a good fit for San Francisco's offense along with Jalen Naylor. Let's just stick with the defensive line part of it, Vish. John Franklin Myers, 14 and a half sacks the last 2 years, can rush inside, can play a little on the edge, but he's mostly an inside guy. He turns 30 in September. You like that move for the Niners?
That would maybe be a little different than how I would want them to invest their money this offseason, but I guess it would scream that they believe interior pass rush is their number one need next to Nick Bosa, not a fella edge rusher. Because I would want to take the investment of, spend whatever amount of money for John Franklin Myers, who would be the premium interior pass rusher in this market, like the premium disruptive guy with versatility. That's him. Not the greatest run defender, but great interior penetrator from multiple spots. Versus I would want to then get a premium edge player on the other side of Bosa, bookend with him. And so that would be that they are telling you, no. It's better to pair him with an interior disruptive player, which is what they were aiming for when they paid all that money for Hargrave. And he turned out to be a little bit of a biscuit for them. And so it's not what I would prefer them to do, but I would understand it, and it wouldn't be a bad move because he's a good player. And you're not going to I'm not going to be like, it's a terrible move for getting a good player.
There's some thought out there that he could end up in Tennessee because I think they hired a coach that he had some experience with. And Saleh, obviously he has experience with Saleh, been with the Jets. And also the Titans have a ton of cap space. So they may just blow him out of the water with an offer, in which case the 49ers are not really going to be able to really win a bidding war. So they're going to have to, really be a lot better with their free agent decision making and who they choose to buy than they have been, because they've had a lot of whiffs in free agency. As much as everybody likes to talk about the draft whiffs, free agent whiffs have been, just as costly.
Oh, totally. They've not been, especially day one of free agency. They've not been great when they choose to spend money on someone.
The other news we got from the defensive line, the Niners are not going to tender Kalia Davis a contract. Not shocking, but, they need to turn over a lot of this roster. I'm certainly not upset by it, but it just goes to show, again, they're going to have to make a lot of changes to the defensive line. It's another spot they're going to have to fill with somebody.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit shocked by that. I thought he was a serviceable role player in their rotation. I didn't think it was too much to give him that tender and keep him around just another year. I guess it goes to show, one, maybe his health was not reliable for them, which is a little bit shocking because they're usually pretty okay waiting around on someone's health. But even more than that, they have other plans for this interior defensive line this offseason. They want to maybe overhaul it a little bit. And that's where the Franklin Myers rumors come as well.
I think he was a little kind of boomer bust too. I feel like he would have a couple of plays where you were like, damn, Kalia Davis. Okay. But then you'd have some plays where you were like, damn, Kalia Davis. She got shoved back, 5 yards off the line of scrimmage. And we've talked about, they need to just get some consistency. They need to even that out. The peaks are great, but you can't have the valleys will kill you. And they got to get back to that middle class of the roster that Levin always talks about.
Yeah, absolutely. And that starts with being able to draft. The middle class of your roster is usually cheap guys that you draft that are playing better than what you pay them. And they're playing better than what you pay them because you're in this cost control situation of you can't pay them for the first whatever years of their contract when they get drafted. And so that's something they've just not done well. And they've not drafted well in premium positions. It's just been case in point when you look up their draft boards. And so Last year was a good start because they took a lot of chances on guys at premium positions. They took an edge rusher, a couple of defensive tackles, and those guys look very promising. We'll see how it plays out. They've got to go in that same direction this year. They've got to once again invest depth in those premium positions.
I want to ask you a question about that, but I want to get to this super chat. Silent, thank you very much. Says, please, Lynch, don't pass on the next GWS Go Theineman. Forgive me. Who is GWS? I can't. I've been trying to figure it out since I saw the
Golden
comment.
State Warrior.
I don't know. Like, I'm trying to. If you chat, if you know who it is, let me know because I'm trying to figure out the comment. But I've heard good things about Theineman. Todd McShay was talking him up big time. Niners could use the safety. We'll see. You were talking about. Go ahead.
I just don't think for the scheme they play on defense, you can use a first-round pick on safety.
Well, okay, this ties into what I wanted to ask you about. You know, there is a positional value chart. You know, running backs are not very high on that chart. They're lower down. Pass rushers up there. Quarterback, obviously. A lockdown, shutdown corner would be high on that. But also, a lot of people are saying, like, hey, this draft isn't really that great. So if that's the case, don't you kind of throw the positional value chart out the window and just say, hey, this in a draft class that's not great, let me just grab the best player, even if it is a running back or one of these lower tier positions?
It's so hard for me to directly answer what you asked because I think what you asked is so nuanced in when you're amidst having those discussions, right? Because the thing is, you do free agency first and you feel like, okay, if we came into the offseason with 10 needs, let's check off 5 of them with free agency. And this is completely hypothetical. Now you go into the draft with the other 5 positions of needs still available and you say, we really like 2 of these players. We think they'll be around when we're drafting, and so we'll likely be able to fill them. And then you're drafting, and it turns out you're super strong at position X, and the best player at position X is still available, and the position you needed, player 1 that you wanted is gone, and player 2 is way higher than everybody else on your board, is the only one available, and now you're stuck in this conversation of, are we better off next year if we're way better at position X and way weak at position Y? Or are we better off next year if we balance it a little bit by being very good at position X, not way better, and having a better position Y by taking the other player? And so I think those sorts of conversations are not defined. I don't think there's one way that you can go like, oh, because of this situation, you go like this. I think you're right. This is a unique area where you feel like this draft is quote unquote so weak, at least from what the experts are saying, that maybe you want to take that sort of chance. But I don't know if that quote unquote weak is because the draft itself is weak or it's because certain positions don't have depth, right? And in the Niners case, it's not like they need a quarterback. So a weak quarterback draft doesn't hurt them. We've talked about them needing a running back, but when you look at how much they've invested, you would like Garendo and Jordan James to work out behind Christian McCaffrey and to say, okay, they don't need a running back. It's not a great running back draft behind Jeremiah Love draft. They need receiver. It's a good receiver draft. They need tight end. It's an okay tight end draft. They always need defensive line. It's a really good defensive line draft. It's a good offensive line draft too. Maybe good is a little bit of a stretch, but it seems to have positions of players of talent and depth in all of these positions. And so in that way, I feel like maybe for the Niners, it worked out in the sense that this isn't as weak a draft. Is that a fair answer to your question? I feel like I went a little bit all over the place, but yeah.
It's a hard thing because, like you said, it's a lot of nuance. And, you know, I think we look at it as like, oh, well, the 49ers could have got X guy and they didn't, and they're dumb, or they did a great job because they got this guy here. And it's such a hard question to answer because if the number 1 guy on your board is available, do you always take him all the time, even if you have a massive need at another position? Like it's a difficult question to answer, especially because you don't know what the hell is going to happen after you make your pick. So it's very hard to predict. You don't know who's going to trade up. You don't know any of that. I mean, I just keep going back to when Ricky Pearsall was drafted a couple of years ago, me included, and everybody was like, damn, a wide receiver in the first round, that's kind of a luxury. Like, what are you doing? And now it's like, if this wide receiver room didn't have Ricky Pearsall, they would be in worse trouble than they're in now.
Well, that's why they should have listened to me then, Rob. I
Okay.
liked the pick. I'm totally kidding. No, you're absolutely right. And that's where a lot of this is like future investment for your roster, because you're not just trying to be good one year, right? Even though you're trying to win the Super Bowl the very next year. And you're also not just trying to be good at one thing or in one area. You have 53 people on your roster that all matter over the course of the season. In the Niners case, shoot, 70 people matter. There's 20 guys on the street that matter to the Niners that they don't even know about before the start of the season because they might have to play meaningful snaps for them. And so, and that's where it's a lot more difficult than just being like, okay, take this person or don't take this person, or you should have done that or you shouldn't have done that. And I like your example of, do you just take the best player on your draft board? Because then you go Charles Rogers, Roy Williams, Mike Williams, and all three of them were bust. That sucks. I guess Roy Williams was okay, but you can't do that, right? You can't just take a receiver every year because the receiver is the next best player on your board. You have to try and build a team, and you have to find ways to do that. And I think that's where the Niners getting Kwesi is going to help. I like that move, Rob. I know you and Dieter were hinting at it on your show.
Not by name, yeah, but that's the guy Dieter was talking about when he came on and said that the Niners were having discussions about adding to the front office. I am on record as I'm saying I hope that he adds a perspective that was missing from that room, which is this perspective of somebody that's not a coach, that zooms out a little bit, that sees these players more as assets. I know that sounds kind of cold and calculating, but you do need that perspective. I'm not saying they always have to listen to Kwesi, but I think it's valuable when they're talking about doing something crazy that someone in the room stands up and says, hey, maybe we need to think about it like this. What if we looked at it this way? And that might temper some of their worst impulses.
I like it a lot. And maybe I'm looking into it a lot. And I think it's just it's just the person that was available that they were familiar with. So they hired him. But I think what Kwesi brings in that perspective that you were talking about is a little unique and different than what people traditionally expect, right? I don't look at Kwesi as a scout. Like, I don't look at him now coming into the room where he's going to have really strong opinions where maybe they've been trying to draft DB a certain way, and Kwesi's like, no. We're now going to only look for DBs with 33-inch arms because that's the only thing that. No. I don't look at him as that sort of guy. And to me, that identifies that the Niners don't look at that part of their process as wrong. I don't think they hate their process of scouts go identify guys that fit the profile that Shanahan identified for each position, and then coaches study them, and coaches pick the guys they want to draft, and those are the guys they draft. What Kwesi will bring, to your point, is that asset value management, which is the thing we identified as, hey, like, you can't trade for 3 first-round picks a month before the draft for Trey Lance. And I hate to beat the dead horse with that one, but it's the easiest example of something a guy like Kwesi wouldn't do. It just doesn't make sense to wield your assets that way. Something Kyle Shanahan did very emotionally. And to even have that perspective and to have that conversation in the room is powerful. To me, they don't have to listen to it 100% of the time. Shanahan can still be the most powerful person, but the fact that someone is there to question it, someone is there to bring the other side of it, if he can stop Shanahan from making one emotional trade up or one emotional move, he's done something really positive for the Niners.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like Silent here is looking at Kwesi and looking at his draft history with Minnesota, and it's ugly. We talked about it. I talked about it with Jason Aponte last week. It is not great. I don't want him picking the players. I don't, but I do want his perspective in the room. I think that there is value in that, and that's what I hope they get from him. If they let him pick the players, maybe we're in trouble, but you can't criticize the Niners drafting, and then when they try to bring in someone that might change it, get mad about that too. It's like, well, damn, they're trying.
Yeah, Kwesi isn't about whether you take this corner or that corner. He's not a scout. Kwesi is about, we have 3 first-round picks over the next 2 years. How do we turn this into X amount of picks? We have to pay this guy versus this guy. Who do we pay? Like, what's the line on drawing the paying for this guy? He's like a football perspective of Parag, kind of, if that makes sense. And that's not exactly what he does, but that's how I'm explaining him.
Let's talk about some of the other names that were mentioned in that article, mainly at wide receiver. Romeo Doubs is an option. I know Dieter and Hutch have talked about Romeo Doubs. Also, Jalen Naylor from Minnesota were mentioned by Jeremy Fowler. Dobbs is really intriguing to me because he's still young. He's got experience in a similar system, obviously playing in Green Bay. That is one that I think that's a wide receiver that's not just like a guy that's going to be there like a Demarcus Robinson. Like Dobbs is an actual threat.
Yeah, I think Dobbs is a really good player. I just think Dobbs will be pretty expensive. And I feel like you're just penciling in yourself to Romeo Dobbs as their starting receiver if you pay him money this offseason. And I feel like Dobbs is that fine line of he's good enough where if he's your starting receiver, you're like, yeah, Dobbs starts for us. He's pretty good. But you're always going to be thinking, man, we could get better at receiver if we have Dobbs starting for us. And I feel like that's how Green Bay was the last 4 years, where it's like every year Dobbs is probably your best receiver. And every year it's like, we probably got to get better at receiver.
If he's your best guy, you don't have a great receiving core. But if he's one of a couple of guys, you could have a really good receiving core. Whoever they sign, because I think they're going to sign somebody, that can't be the only move that they make because they just need too much help at that position. So, yeah, totally. Dobbs should be great. But if they went Dobbs and then also took a receiver in the first round, like I would understand it. That wouldn't be my preference, but I would understand it, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I love the idea of Naylor. I think Naylor's a flat out good player. I think Naylor pencils in right as your number 3, and he puts pressure on you to draft another guy. And I also think Naylor fits in financially where he can start if you need him to, but you're not going to pay him like he has to start, which gives your rookie a chance to come in and beat him out as well. And he gives you, if your rookie can't beat him out, he gives you a guy that can start. And I like that versatility financially. I also want to add one thing, Rob, not to change the topic, but I have a good thing for what I think Kwesi can help with. I just realized the example I should have used. Kwesi is the guy that's going to come into the room this offseason and say, we should trade Mac Jones because this is where his value is the highest and our quarterback is Brock Purdy. He's going to be the kind of guy that talks from that perspective. And we already did the whole thing last show of how we feel Shanahan's going to go on this. He always overvalues his guy in this sort of situation. And so I think that conversation itself will be nice for the Niners to have.
Yes, but I don't know if you saw the column that Barrows and Vic Tafur put out in The Athletic. Basically, there is no market for Mac Jones, at least to hear them tell it. They wrote, let's be clear, the Niners are not looking to trade Jones. And then we quoted Lynch and said, a lot of those openings, it turns out, weren't so open. Everybody in the NFL expects Rodgers to return to the Steelers and top free agent Malik Willis to end up in Cleveland or Arizona. Mendoza's going first in the draft to the Raiders, and Ty Simpson apparently got a first-round promise from a team so he would forego all name, image, and likeness money and return to Alabama. Then it names the teams that are going through. So basically, nobody wants Mac Jones.
Oh, are you who? Whoa, Rob! You're gonna who was talking about this last show?
The quote that they throw in here is, are the Niners going to throw in Kyle Shanahan in the deal too? One general manager asked on the other side of town from Prime Steakhouse.
Interesting, Rob.
Look, I trade him even if you only get a 3rd round pick. I don't even care if you trade him for a 4th round pick, because to me, a 4th round pick this year is worth more than a 3rd round pick the year after Mac Jones leaves. You know, like that's the other part of it is I need this team to get better fast, quick, and in a hurry. And I can't sit around and wait for a 3rd round pick a year after Mac Jones leaves.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just have, again, what I said last week on this show is exactly how I feel how this situation is going to go. I think last week on this show, my exact words of it was, I don't think Mac Jones is going to have the market that everybody says or claims he's going to have. I can only see maybe Minnesota being interested in him. And it sounds like that's the exact situation ongoing because, again, his skill set, like people misevaluated Mac Jones the last 2 years, so they misevaluated him this year. His skill set is no different than when he was in Jacksonville or New England. He was surrounded by crap in Jacksonville and New England, and they couldn't allow him to play quarterback the way he can play to be successful. When you put him in a situation where the offense is quick and defined and he has a place to go with the ball as soon as his back foot hits the ground, he's exceptionally accurate and he can get the ball out of his hands. He's always been good at that. He needs to be in a place that can make him do that. The Niners are one of those places. I agree with your underlying point. If you get a 3rd-round pick for him, I would ship him as well. I'm with that. What the Niners are going to do in my mind is they're going to say, well, we can win 10 games with Mac Jones. What does that mean? What does it mean if we have a quarterback you can win 10 games with? Oh, that's worth a 1st-round pick. Wait, you're only giving us a 3rd-round pick for Mac Jones? Mac Jones is way more valuable to our team than this 3rd-round pick because, again, we can win 10 games with Mac Jones. So, therefore, we need Mac Jones. I 100% believe that's how they're going to look at it because that's just the way they've always looked at it.
And Valerie makes a good point. If Mac doesn't have a strong market right now, he's probably only going to give you a 4th-round comp pick instead of a 3rd-round comp because he's not going to sign that big of a contract when he does ultimately leave. It's a good point, Valerie.
I think even that 4th is going to be close because the 4th is even saying that you're saying he signs for like $15 to $20 million or $10 to $15 million, right? I think he's going to sign a straight backup, or I guess maybe he signs a backup starter deal. I don't think he's going to get a straight starter deal. Maybe she's right about the 4th-round pick. I'm with that. That is a good point.
I mean, I'm stunned that some of these other, like, Mac Jones is way more proven than Malik Willis. I'm sorry. I don't think Malik Willis is going to get $30 million. I really don't.
He's free.
He's what?
He's free.
Well, he only costs money and not draft picks, but okay. I mean, you
have no scars. You've not seen Malik Willis like really fail because he's never really gotten a clear chance. He didn't get like a full chance in Tennessee. Mac Jones got the full chance in New England and came completely unraveled.
He went to the playoffs in one of those years.
Yeah, but he came personally unraveled. Like you saw Mac Jones unravel under the pressure. Remember the whole thing of Mac Jones like stepping and kicking people? Like that was a thing with this guy.
He also had
unraveled.
He also had Matt Patricia and like Joe Judge
totally
hitting his offense.
Totally.
I'm just saying,
and that's why he's pretty good when he has Kyle Shanahan, no doubt about it. No one's saying anything away from Mac Jones, but you also like I do think like there's points against the guy for coming apart that way, where he's calling Billy O'Brien. What was it like? We need you to come run the offense during the season. Like that was a bad look. Was that not? I think the way he carried himself hurt him. That's all I'm saying. And he did not carry himself well in New England. I want to compliment him because I do think that was an area that I like really was hard on him. If I could be hard on him, was like, I don't think he carried himself well. I thought he carried himself great with the Niners, like total credit for that. But I do think it'll be held against him that reputationally, this guy was considered a dirty player as a quarterback. How are you considered a dirty player as a quarterback?
I don't think that'll be that big a deal. I just
sticking his cleats into people's privates.
Like, dude, and I'm not excusing any of that, by the way, but like in terms of just his attitude, because I know there was talks about that. Like, you imagine going to work every day for Bill Belichick, Matt Patricia, and Joe Judge. Like, that's your work. That's your day every day for hours. Like, what kind of a mood are you going to be? And then he gets to San Francisco with Kyle and they're winning games, and then he gets to start and he's winning games. No wonder he was in such a good mood all the time.
I think it's a lot different when you're the backup. The pressure's not on you, but when you have to play versus you're the like when you're the 1st-round pick franchise quarterback, the expectations, the pressure, everything that comes with that, it can wear on a person. He did not wear that well. He wears the no pressure off the bench from Alabama really well. The no pressure off the bench with the Niners really well. It's different. It's different from when they pay you that money and say you're the guy. So that's where I think Brock Purdy, like for all the great things or bad things that we debate and talk about, we don't give enough credence to just the fact that he's able to carry that, which a lot of people aren't able to carry that. That's a powerful thing.
He was also 23, when he got drafted in New England. We're all a little immature at that. I know you were just 23 like last year, but the rest of us.
No, I agree with you. I know how immature I was in 23 back in that day, 3 years ago.
Look, maybe it's all a smokescreen, and maybe some team panics when they don't get the guy they want in the draft, and then maybe that's when we get a deal for Mac Jones. Who knows? But right now, it looks like he's going to be on the team.
I'm telling you, the deal I see for Mac Jones is someone gets hurt in training camp. And I don't wish that upon anybody, but that Sam Bradford deal, that's the one for Mac Jones. Someone gets hurt in training camp, Mac Jones, you're going to start for us. Mac Jones, who?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a rare situation, though. That's the example everybody gives. Oh, Teddy Bridgewater gets hurt, but like it doesn't happen that often where a guy gets a season-ending injury,
Or
right out of the gate.
Or the one you hope for, right, is like Minnesota just doesn't get anyone. Because if they get Geno, they're not going to be in the Mac Jones market. But like
Right.
Minnesota doesn't get anyone and they have to settle for like Jacoby Brissett, something like that. If he's even available, I don't even know about that. And then Minnesota comes through training camp and JJ stinks. And it's like now they're super mega desperate and they're just like, get us someone who can come in and start. Because when you get into the situation of, oh, we now have to get a guy prepped to start from preseason, like all the way into the season and get him going in our offense, that's when Mac Jones becomes valuable. We've got to pick up a guy mid-season. He's got to be able to pick up our offense, and now he's got to play decent for us. Those are the areas where I think Mac Jones becomes way more valuable than a Malik Willis, for example. Whereas Malik Willis, if you spend the whole offseason tailoring an offense around the guy, there's just more things you can put around him because of his arm strength, and more than his arm strength, his running. His running gives you a completely added asset to your offense because his running is one of the top 5-6 quarterback runners in the NFL. It's great quarterback running. And so I think Mac Jones's value will increase the closer to like, hey, someone misses a quarterback and they're desperate for one.
How about something else that Barrows and Vic Tafur had in the column? If Reek Woolen doesn't re-sign with the Seahawks, several executives and coaches think the 49ers will have interest in the 6'4 corner. Woolen had some ups and downs winning a ring with Seattle, but was pretty consistent locking down receivers, has speed, and is only 27. He wouldn't be cheap, but he would be an improvement over Renardo Green. I feel like Renardo Green has taken a couple of body shots this offseason. I don't really know why, because I think Renardo Green can be a good player, but everybody, I mean, ESPN had that column that he has an 80% chance to be traded. Now you got Barrows and Tafur saying the Reek Woolen could be a big signing by the 49ers. Are you surprised at this?
Well, first, I think there's something that happened personally with Renardo Green that we don't know about, because the agents are clearly throwing his name around to the reporters like for everything. That's where the 80% comes from, and that's where this comes from. Like, hey, they don't like Renardo Green. They're out on Renardo Green. When you look at the totality of 2025 for Renardo Green, I'm with you. To me, he's actually like all around one of their higher potential players from the 2024 draft. Can we say that? But clearly there's something that's got them out on him, whether it's an IQ thing, it's a practice thing. I have no idea. I'm not going to speculate. But there's something that has them out on him. In terms of Reek Woolen, now, I think a lot of Niners fans are going to look at Reek Woolen versus the Niners, where he's been particularly awful. I mean, he was the reason they lost the week 1 game. The play that Tonjes caught the game-winning touchdown was a would-be interception thrown right to him, and he just didn't track the ball, and Tonjes mossed him for a game-winning touchdown. He got mossed by Jake Tonjes.
And I'm pretty sure he gave up the bomb to Pearsall before that. I think that was
where he didn't track the ball either. Same thing. And so those things aside, and he struggled even when they used to play Seattle with the Pete Carroll teams. He used to struggle having to play 3 deep, and like when they used to break the rules with the crossing routes, like they used to break Reek Woolen's mind. All of those things aside, and they used to make him tackle, which wasn't great at. He is a good player. He's had a very good season. He's very sticky in coverage. He's been consistent over multiple schemes. He's very tall and very fast. I don't want them to sign him. All of that saying that. I see what they see. They've never had that archetype of corner, but I like guys that can tackle a little more consistently. He made the big mistake in the NFC Championship game, and he completely apologized for it, and he handled it with complete grace of doing the taunting to allow the Rams to stay in the game when Seattle could have more or less put them away then and there, going up 2 scores. And those mental mistakes, to me, I don't think it's indicative of him being a bad person in any way, but I think it's indicative of what happens to him on the football field. He has a little bit of that Kendrick Bourne syndrome where he's not always 100% locked in that moment where stuff like that just happens. He can be a little loose and he can make that mental error on defense or that coverage bust, that sort of thing. It's just not my sort of person or player, and that's why I wouldn't want them to sign him.
If they had drafted him and he was on a rookie contract, I'd be like, maybe you tolerate it because he does have some good physical traits and good physical skills, but not when you're going to have to pay premium money on a free agent contract and outbid everybody else. No, I like the taunting thing. Like, dude, that's the most avoidable penalty of all time. They already have Lenore who does that garbage. You don't need another guy like that on the team. I like the idea of weakening Seattle and bringing in somebody from the Seattle defense that Kyle can sort of mine for information, but I'm not paying, whatever the contract might be, $60-70 million over how many years. No, I don't think so. I would much rather gamble on Raheem Morris just making Bernardo Green a better player next year than I would on a Reek Woolen deal.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I wonder if it is sort of gamesmanship on that end to just try and raise that price and raise the conversation and raise the interest, because Seattle does have a ton of money, but also a ton of people to sign this offseason. And so maybe you just want Seattle to pay that much more for a Kent Walker, pay that much more for Reek Woolen. Because what do teams tend to do when they win the Super Bowl? Run it back.
I don't think they're going to bring Walker back, but that's just me. A couple other names I want to throw at you. This is somebody that Levin has advocated for. Khalil Mack says he is not retiring, 35 years old. He wants to come back next year. Now, the Chargers supposedly are going to make a big push to sign him, but he's going to test the waters. So would you want 35-year-old Khalil Mack?
No. I love the idea of him. I love him as a player. And I think like every other Niners offseason, I would have been like, yeah, like totally, 100%. I just think this roster needs a little bit more on the other side of Nick Bosa than 35-year-old Khalil Mack. It's like he would be like the Mike Evans situation we talked about from last week, but in more extreme of that at 35, where you're putting a 1-year Band-Aid on that other side edge rusher to Nick Bosa. I don't know. Maybe they love Bryce Huff. Maybe they think Bryce Huff is the freaking man. I don't. And I want a long-term solution on the other side of Nick Bosa. That's where it's like I would take whatever money they're thinking of for Franklin Myers and try and go find that. And maybe they're looking to pay Franklin Myers because they don't think anybody is worth that money that they're looking for. It's either unproven or it's too expensive in the edge market for them. And that's why they're saying, let's go find the best interior guy and pay him because he's going to be the best reasonably priced guy for us. But that's what I would prefer.
Some people say when you draft a defensive lineman, 11th overall, that should be your answer to opposite Nick Bosa.
Well, don't you view him as kind of like an interior rusher and he sets the edge on first and second down? Like I view him as a big guy in your defensive line. I don't view him as your game-changing edge rusher next to your other game-changing edge rusher. Like I don't view them ever being Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter.
No, I don't. Well, I mean, I don't know, but it doesn't look like that right now. I mean, Michael's pretty young, but he's also coming off an ACL. But it looked like the plan for them. Well, I mean, when everybody was healthy, that's the sort of ideal situation. They were keeping him on the outside on first and second down and moving him on the inside on third.
He just doesn't bend to the quarterback well enough on the edge, and he's just not explosive around the edge enough to me to be like 100% an edge rusher. I do think he's got enough power and general explosion where if you put him on the outside in front of a tackle, he's not going to completely suck once he gets his full like way of an understanding of playing all together. But I think he's going to be most disruptive inside, which is what they intend to have him. I'm looking for that. Whatever like they think Bryce Huff is in theory, because 6 times a season when the quarterback rolls right, he tags the quarterback down or pushes him out of bounds to record what the statistics show as a sack. I want that. Like a real guy who comes around the edge, can really bend and press the quarterback to step up, step into the size of Alfred Collins, raising those big arms to bat passes, step into the interior penetration of CJ West. Or I guess now John Franklin Myers. However you can find that like premium bend edge, round the edge guy on the other side of Nick Bosa. It also allows Bosa's variety to come into play.
I would agree. One other thing. I want to talk to you about. And maybe this is just me doing my crazy tinfoil on my head thing. But I saw this tweet from David Lombardi and I was like, wow, that seems kind of random, but okay. I'll throw the tweet on the screen if I could actually get the right window up. He tweeted this out. He quote tweeted a move that the Texans made along the offensive line. And then he said, what if the Texans call the 49ers on Trent Williams and San Francisco simultaneously has an opportunity in free agency to get younger and more cost efficient at left tackle with Rasheed Walker, plus add draft capital? And look, maybe he's just throwing this out there to throw it out there. But also, as I said at the top of the show, right, like the contracts that are going to be announced next week when legal tampering starts are being negotiated right now. Is it crazy to think the 49ers could trade Trent Williams and sign Rasheed Walker in free agency?
No, I think this is great tinfoil theory hat from David Lombardi. And I think it's really like logical thinking. One, Trent Williams, I think, spends his full offseason. I think he lives in Houston, actually, and he off seasons out there. We know that him and Debo have been out there with Footwork King. They post those videos. I feel like those are always in Houston. So I guess Houston would make sense. Houston has a need for a left tackle after they let Laramie Tunsil walk, and they have the money to pay him. So I guess that also makes sense. I don't love replacing Trent Williams with Rasheed Walker because I think Rasheed Walker is going to cost a lot of money in the open market, and I think Rasheed Walker is just okay. He's not like Trent. Like there's a just like quarterbacks, there's a premium to having left tackles. Like Trent Williams is the premium among premium in terms of left tackle talent, but then you have like the Christian Darisaws, the Tristan Wirfs, these sorts of guys who are like supremely athletically gifted. Then after that, you have the guys that are just like good football players, but they don't have that like one of one athletic gifts. That's where Rasheed Walker fits in to me. He wouldn't disable the Niners from doing anything in their offense. He would more or less do it, but he also is going to struggle if there's any sort of superstar pass rusher having to block him. Like they will have to help Rasheed Walker on the outside the way they have to help Colton McKivitz. He's also not going to create the same impact. Like, of course, Trent Williams is one of one, but like Rasheed Walker isn't going to be an impact blocker in the run game. He's not going to be a bad blocker in the run game, but he's also not going to change your run game the way a Trent Williams does. I understand, like, that's one of those situations where it's like, yeah, for next year, like, this is the best of what we can do, given that we can't pay Trent. He's not going to play for us if we don't pay him. So how do we get a pick and find the best possible starter? Okay, this makes sense. Great idea, David Lombardi. Like, and I truly mean that. But when we put it into practice, I hate it. Because there's going to be no point in Rasheed Walker's career that he's going to be better than Trent Williams. And Trent Williams is 37 or 36.
Well, but you're never going. Oh, he's 38.
38. But even now, that's what I mean. Like 38-year-old Trent Williams is like considerably better to me than Rasheed Walker.
You're always going to down
prime.
When you're trading Trent Williams, you are downgrading, period, because he's that damn good. Now, I don't know anything about Rasheed Walker, so I can't comment on that. But would this be a sign of like maybe the Niners need to just tear the whole thing down here? Like if you're trading Trent, are you going to, you see, the problem is like Kittle's coming off a major injury. You can't trade him. No one's going to want him coming off an Achilles. Fred Warner's coming off a major injury. Nick Bosa's coming off a major injury. So the pieces that you would sell if you were going to do a tear down, you can't sell. So you're in a kind of a weird situation.
No, and I agree with you on the weird situation. And even further than that, like in theory, the timeline indicates that, right? Like it's an immediate yes. Like in theory, that's what the timeline indicates.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, it's like you just paid Brock Purdy, and Brock Purdy and weapons like gets you to the Super Bowl, gets you to the NFC Championship game. You've seen that. So it's like, on the other hand, like you have to do right by the fact that like you have to put something around him. You can't pay Brock Purdy and then be like, yeah, Brock, we need to now tear this whole thing up. So you play with shit for the 3 years of your contract and then we'll figure it out from there. Like you can't do it like that either. They're reaping what they sowed for a lot of moves that didn't hurt them when they had a lot of assets that then have hurt them later on. It's the NFL. This is how it catches up with you. You can turn it around quickly, but I feel like Rasheed Walker is the kind of move that makes it hard. to turn around because you're stuck paying a lot of money for just an okay player. And those are the moves that get you fired eventually. Those are the moves that get you 500, 500, 500, move on.
And those are the moves the 49ers haven't made, right? They've let Mike McGlinchey walk out the door instead of paying him top dollar. They let Aaron Banks go. They didn't pay Jalen Moore the money that the Kansas City Chiefs paid him. Like, they haven't done that. Most of the guys that they've paid have been Bosa, Kittle, Warner, Lenore. They got on a team-friendly contract. The Greenlaw contract that he did with the 49ers was a very team-friendly contract when they signed it with him. They've been good about not paying guys they shouldn't pay, but they're in a tricky situation this year. Trent kind of has them over the barrel a little bit, so we'll see.
And there's nowhere else to go to that point, right? Like, if you don't go Rasheed Walker, you're kind of going like punting the year at left tackle until we find the next Trent Williams replacement, because you're not finding better than Rasheed Walker this year.
Well, unless they take whatever they get from Trent and maybe a first-round pick and try to move up and take a left tackle higher in the draft in the first round. You know, I'll say this about the 49ers. They have always moved on left tackle. Like, they had Joe Staley there, and then the second Joe Staley retired, remember they delayed the retirement announcement until after the Trent Williams deal because they didn't want to, you know, have that get out there. Like, they kept everything on the down low. The one spot on the offensive line that Kyle is consistently invested in has been left tackle.
He's had it his whole career. His dad traded for Gary Zimmerman. Kyle Shanahan came to Houston with Dwayne Brown, Hall of Fame-ish left tackle. He then went to Washington. They drafted Trent Williams first thing there, Hall of Fame left tackle. He goes to Cleveland. That's Joe Thomas, Hall of Fame left tackle. He goes to Atlanta. They draft Jake Matthews, who started there for the better part of a decade. And then he comes to San Francisco, and it's Joe Staley followed by Trent Williams. They've never had a not like Hall of Fame type left tackle. Or he's never had.
But Rasheed Walker. Until now. That streak's got to end, right? But maybe that's what they decide to do. I don't know.
I'm praying they come up with a way to get Tristan Wirfs. They come up with a way to get Christian Darrisaw.
I was just stunned to see Lombardi throw that out there because it was like, I haven't seen anyone suggest that they would trade Trent Williams, and he doesn't usually speculate, I feel like, on moves like that. So the fact that he threw that out there, I was kind of like, okay.
He doesn't like trading. He seemed done with Trent Williams, and he usually doesn't like being done with 49ers star players. So
I don't know. The Trent situation is a thing. And then, you know, the whole other part of it is he owes a lot of cash to
also the draft picks, dude. They're getting what they're gonna get in terms of draft picks for Trent Williams is gonna make us go, what? That's what you got for Trent Williams. He's 38 years old and needs a new contract.
Then why are you trading for him?
To pay him.
But I mean, like, if he's good enough for you to trade for, then you got to give me something. It's not going to be.
Yeah. But I don't think it's like Trent Williams is going to give them a second round pick. Like, I don't think that's happening.
Damn, you can't even get a 2 for Trent Williams?
He's 38 and needs to get, what, $20 million guaranteed at least?
Damn, man. All right, for a second round, you're telling, well, all right, let me put it to you this way. If the Niners were the team trading for Trent Williams and needed a left tackle, you wouldn't want them to give up a second round pick? They gave up a second round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo.
They traded like a 4th and a 5th for him originally. And that was him in like the middle of his prime. And he was under contract, and you didn't have to pay him a new contract when you traded for him. Now he's 38.
He was refusing to play for Washington. He was coming off the year where
play for the Niners. They're doing simpatico by each other. This, like, trading him to Houston is about, we like D'Amico. You live in Houston. Go end your career the way you want. They are already doing nice by him.
I agree, but no. But
it's going to be a good guy's deal. 4th round pick. There you go, pal.
A good
Same
old boy.
thing we got for Trey Lance.
God, say that out loud again. Say it out loud again. They're going to get the same return for Trent Williams that they got for Trey Lance. How does that make sense?
It just does.
We got a super chat here. Iceman 0072, YouTube channel member. Shout out to all our members. Hope everybody saw the scroll that was on the screen of all of you earlier in the show. Too bad it didn't draft Wirfs instead of Javon Kinlaw.
Sigh.
Was it Kinlaw or was it Ayuk that they took?
No, it was 100% Kinlaw. But look, That's just one I can never go back to because I'm the kind of like I'm the sick bastard that if you take me back to that time, sorry, Rob, 49-56. If you take me back to that time, I would still take Kinlaw. Like to me, the logic of okay, Kinlaw didn't work out. That's high as day clear. But like the logic of a 6'5", 320-pound defensive tackle who, to our earlier conversation, didn't need to slug 7 waters before he jumped on the scale to be 330. Like he gets out of bed, didn't eat yesterday, yawns, and he's 330. It's that easy for him. And he's like that big. And by the way, he had his senior year, he kicked ass versus Georgia and Alabama. He was unblockable versus Georgia and Alabama. And then he kicked ass in the Senior Bowl as well. Best player in the Senior Bowl. When you put all of that together, like, oh man, that's like my draft, that's like my draft perfect situation. You get rid of DeForest Buckner. He had the whole long arms. Like, I have issues, Rob. That's all I'm saying. And I think I just proved that with the last minute.
The knees were the thing that's like they knew his knees were bad coming out of college, and they still took him. That was the scary.
I feel like nobody has really known how bad his knees were. Because I thought, like, by the end of San Francisco, it should have been very clear how bad his knees were. And then Adam Peters, our good pal, gave him lifetime changing money. So maybe his medicals have checked out better than we all thought.
I don't know. But, God, bringing up those wounds in the past.
Hey, we can solve them all with Bryce Lance, man. How about that guy?
Hope you saved your 5 Lance jerseys, everybody. Bryce, what did he run, like a 4.36? He was moving.
4.34, yeah.
Kyle's got to be like, damn, what did it skip a generation? That's what they were hoping Trey was going to run.
Maybe Trey still runs that. I will say, I thought Trey looked quick. If all things, I thought he looked quick when I saw him play with the Chargers this year.
He looked faster with the Chargers than he looked in San Francisco, which is crazy.
100%. 100%. I think I used to say it with Trey then, and I'll say it again. I don't think it's speed and athleticism. I think part of speed and athleticism is also like having navigation skills. Like I don't think Mahomes is fast, but I think Mahomes makes a lot of guys look slow because he always knows where he's going relative to where everybody is, and he knows how to navigate around. I think everything around Lance was moving too fast, and he was unable to move fast because he is still picking his spot on where to go, and he's still thinking and all of that. And you just got to go.
It's I like this comment too. Lance's parents would lose their mind. That's probably I'm
not
sure.
Say no.
I'm not sure Trey has nice things to say about the 49ers behind closed doors. I don't know that. I'm just speculating. But do you think that would make them shy away from him? Do you think they'd be like, oh, we love him as a player, but we can't do it?
I think it would, because I do think it would be complicated personally. And you don't know what kind of, like, Bryce Lance was a teenager when his brother got drafted and they were always close. You don't know how much it hurt him to see what his brother went through and if he carries any, like, because any kid, you don't know how they internalize that. And so you don't know what he carried from that. So that's the thing. But if he's like super professional about it, which I would say one of the awesome things about the Lances, from Trey Lance to his parents, was that they seem to be super practical about what the business is, what it is as people and all of that. And they were like really real about it. He's like that too. I mean, it's just a job, right? At the end of the day. And like, you just got to do the best job you can to do that job. And I think Bryce Lance has some serious talent, not just what he did at the combine. It's not like I'm sitting here watching or studying Division 1A football at all, but like you watch clips of Bryce Lance over the course of the season, he looks like a friggin' playmaker, at least in Division 1A. Maybe this is me. Like, I don't know if you ever do this, but like there's always the highlights of a Niners player when they get drafted, and you're like, oh man, we drafted. If it's a corner, this is Deion Sanders. If it's a receiver, like this is Jerry Rice.
I've said this before. What I like to do is when they make their picks, I go on YouTube, especially if it's like a skill player or something. Like if it's offensive line, it's kind of tough. But if it's like, especially if it's a receiver, running back, bring up their highlights. Give me their 5-10 best plays. And what I look for is something that they do that just jumps off the screen. Because again, these are their best plays. So something should jump off at me. Is it speed? Is it tackle breaking? Is it
Their
hand?
energy.
Whatever it is, let me see your best. And if I see something in there, it's like, all right, I could, that makes me feel a lot better. But a lot of times you throw it on and you're like, I'm not seeing anything here. And that's when I start to get
Those are the funniest. When you've got the highlights and the music's really good, and it's like,
Yeah.
wait, these are not even that impressive.
Right, there's a 5-yard drag route. Wow. No one touched him. It was zone covered. Like, yeah. So that's what I like to do. And I think we could have that kind of draft. I think it could be a very kind of like toy department kind of draft where it's like running back, receiver, corner. Like, we're going to have some fun, I think, this April.
I feel like there's some cool receivers. I like the guy from Alabama, Jeremy Bernard. I don't know where he's projected to go, but
He ran he had the fastest three cone right?
drill, and he had a very fast 20-yard shuttle as well.
Oh, is it Jeremy? Oh, I should have. Whoops. I mispronounced
Is it Jeremy?
I don't know. I mispronounced his name in 49ers. Jeremy would make sense, but Jeremy, yeah, Germie. Yeah, I definitely butchered that on 49ers and 5. Sorry, Jeremy. My bad. But yeah, we'll get to the draft. Don't worry. We'll have lots of time to preview that. But this was more of a free agency show. Hope you enjoyed it, everybody. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to become a YouTube channel member, it's less than $3 a month. Or if you want to get some cool merch, check out the merch store. Link in the description. We just launched it. Vish has not worn his merch on the show. Thanks for nothing, Vish.
Sorry, Rob. You should have reminded me. I would have quickly changed.
Next week's another opportunity.
I thought when you wore your corporate vest, I thought you wanted us to keep the business casual dress code, okay? Like I thought you were very uptight about this.
When have I ever told you what to wear on a show?
Well, I mean, when have you ever come business casual to a show?
Look, I'm cold. Okay, it's freezing over here.
You got your finance bro Patagonia on.
That's right. That's I don't get to work in an office, so I just dress like I do apparently. But
you should do a day in the life videos.
The next time we talk, Vish, is going to be the first day of legal. The 49ers may have made a big signing by our next show.
Oh yeah, we'll get to talk Luke Farrell as it happens, baby.
Get those blocking tight end highlight reels ready, baby.
But I'm going to be honest, I doubt they're an active team day one of free agency.
You doubt they will be active?
No, I think they'll be active. I just don't think day one will be where they plunder. Maybe I'm proven wrong. If of the guys that are projected, John Franklin Myers, that'll be a day one of free agency signing. So,
yeah. And if they go that way, I won't be too upset, although I would want to see the deal. But just because even if you don't get somebody that first day, that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world either. I'm not saying you have to go sign somebody.
They're always the worst, dude. Like, I mean, look at the Niners' history. Jerick McKinnon, Malcolm Smith, Weston Richburg, Quan Alexander, Luke Farrell, Kyle Juszczyk. No, that one's really good.
Sam Darnold.
No, that come on. That's a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
No, well, but he didn't play for them. But that was a day one. That was a day one move.
Yeah.
They
needed a starter at the time.
Yeah, they didn't know
Purdy was injured.
It'll be interesting. We'll see if the Niners do. But regardless, we will be here with you, good, bad, or ugly. Thank you, everybody. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you next week.